Hi, guys, this is Mrs. Lamb, and today I am going to talk to you about charts and graphs. So, we use these a lot in social studies to convey all different types of information. The first type I'd like to talk about is a pie chart, also known as a circle graph. And as you can see from this particular slide, this type of graph is used to show the different parts of a whole. In this case, the graph shows how zombies spend their time. So the title is Daily Life of a Zombie, and then you can see each of the colors or pieces of the pie represents by color certain things that a zombie does. And you can tell by the blue one, for instance, with the 57%, is saying that zombies spend the majority of their time eating your flesh. And then you can see with the 23% that they eat your brains. And then 16% they moan. And then the purple, the least amount, they dance in a Michael Jackson video. So, anyway, so if I ask you the question, how do zombies spend the majority of their time? You should be able to answer looking at the pie chart here that it is eating your flesh because that's the biggest chunk of the circle. So that would be the correct answer. Okay, so true or false? Zombies spend more time eating your brains than moaning and dancing combined. So they spend 23% of their time eating their brains. So moaning and dancing are the green and the purple. You would have to add those together. 16 plus 4 is 20. 23 is more than 20. So the question says zombies spend more time eating your brains than moaning and dancing combined. And that would be true because 23% is more than 20%. Okay, so 2010 U.S. exports, another pie chart or pie graph, circle graph, whatever you want to call it. It compares individual countries receiving U.S. exports. And then it has the European Union in there, which is not an individual country. That's a bunch of countries combined. So that cannot be the answer to the question that says, according to the pie graph, which individual country receives the most U.S. exports? Because European Union is not an individual country. Canada is at 19%. That is an individual country. Everyone else is not a country. That's the rest of the world. So 19% is more than Mexico, 13%, and it's more than China, 7%. So the correct answer is Canada. Okay, the top 5 countries, Dutch exports 2010. So the question is, what percentage of Dutch exports goes to Belgium? So you look for Belgium, which is represented by this kind of orange-yellow color, and then you see the number next to it is 11.1%. So that would be your answer. All right, China. What category of products does China export the most of? So the first chart on the left is, or the first graph on the left is imports. Those are what they bring into their country. That's not what the question is asking. Exports are things that China sends out. That is what the question is asking. It says, what category of products does China export the most of? So you're looking here for the biggest chunk and the biggest number. It's going to be 30% foodstuffs. So C would be your correct answer in this situation. Okay, what does this circle graph show? It's called paid holidays for U.S. workers. And you'll notice here that it talks about the number of days, and then it has percentage, and it's titled paid holidays. So does it show A, how many workers there are in the U.S.? No, it doesn't say anything about how many workers. B, how many workers take days off in the U.S.? It doesn't say that either because the title is called paid holidays. And then at the bottom, it even says percentage of companies who give this number of days per year. Letter C, how many paid holidays workers get in the U.S.? And that is actually the answer because it says paid holidays for U.S. workers, and that is what it shows. And then D was how far workers travel on their holidays. That's not the answer. So the correct answer in this situation is C. Okay, what is the most popular amount of paid holidays for companies to give in a year? And here's your choices. And then again, the most popular would probably be the largest number. Obviously, 30% of companies give 10 days off a year of paid holidays. So your correct answer would be A, 10. Then we have transportation's importance to GDP is the title of this pie chart. And it says, what percentage of the GDP did healthcare account for in 2000? So we're looking for healthcare. It's this blue color where my cursor is, and it says 14.6%. So your answer should be D, 14.6%. Which category accounted for 6.9% of GDP? So you're just looking for the number 6.9%, and then what it says is recreation. So the correct answer should be B, recreation. All right, bar graphs. They are most often used for comparing. So, for instance, in this chart, it's things I can name. So this particular person can name, probably it looks like 16 presidents. They can name like 12 amendments. They can name 23 state capitals approximately. They can name 20 foreign countries, and they can name 30 One Direction songs. Okay, so that's what the bar graph conveys. So the question says, am I better at naming state capitals or foreign countries? So look at state capitals bar. It goes to about 23. Foreign countries only goes to 20. So this person is probably better at naming state capitals. So that is why state capitals is the answer, because when comparing this bar to this bar, the state capitals is a larger number. It's a taller bar. Approximately how many One Direction songs can I name? So it goes, if you find One Direction and you look at the bar and you follow it over, and the correct answer is 30. Analyzing double bar graphs. So the number of girls and boys coming from different places of a city for a summer cricket coaching camp is as shown on the table. So here's a table of information. Represent this data by a double bar graph. So in this situation, the multiple choices are, you're either going to choose graph 1, 2, 3, or 4 as the best representative of this table. So basically what you do is you look at A, and you look at boys and girls. Boys are represented by dark green, girls are light green. And then you look at the numbers. So for A, all right, 25 girls, 35 boys, 60 total. So you're looking here at your graphs. This bar for girls only goes to 20. So this cannot be your answer. So you can already eliminate graph 1. It's not the right answer. So let's look at graph 2. 25 girls, 35 boys. Okay, for the A section. And then if you look at graph 3, it's got 25 and 35. So graph 2 or 3 could still be the answer. Graph 4 is the same thing. 25 girls, 35 boys. So again, you can still choose from 2, 3, or 4. So let's look at B. Girls, 20. There's 45 boys. So now you got to look at your graph. Let's look back at, we know graph 1 is eliminated. So graph 2 for B, 20 girls, 45 boys. So this graph is still in the running. If you look at graph 3, it's got 30 girls, which does not for B, which is not right. So you can now eliminate graph 3. So at this point, we've eliminated graph 1 and graph 3. So those two are not the correct answer. So now let's look at 4. For B, 20 girls, they have 30. 45 boys, they have 30. So now at this point, without even having to look at the rest, we know that graph 2 is the correct answer just by analyzing the data from the table. All right, so let's try another one. The following table compares the sales of ice cream flavors in 4 days. Pick an appropriate double bar graph to represent the data. So these double bar graphs usually compare two things. Like in the last one, it was boys versus girls. In this one, it's chocolate versus vanilla ice cream. Okay. So again, you're looking at a table Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. On Monday, there was 50 vanillas sold and 50 chocolates. So you're looking for a bar graph that shows 50 of each. So you could already eliminate graph 2 because the first one shows 50 of the vanilla, but way more chocolate. So that doesn't work. Okay. So it should be 50 and 50. So graph 2 is out. Also, graph 4 is out for the same reason. For Monday, it should show 50 and 50, and it doesn't. So graph 2 and 4 are already gone. We're just now looking at graph 1 and 3. So let's look at Tuesday, 60 and 80. 60 vanillas, 80 chocolates, same on both graphs. So both graphs are still in the running. Wednesday, 40 vanillas, 60 chocolates. 40 vanillas, 60 chocolates for graph 1. 40 vanillas, 60 chocolates on Wednesday for graph 2. So they're both in the running. So now we got to go to Thursday. 50 vanillas, 50 chocolates. Well, we know graph 1 doesn't have that. It has 50 vanillas, but it has 70 chocolates. So graph 1 is out. And if you look at graph 3, it does have the right information. So at this point, you now know the correct answer choice is graph 3. Line graphs are best for showing change over time. Okay, so in this situation, we're looking at United States farms from 1950 to 1995, and we're looking at the number of farms in millions. So these numbers are in millions. All right, so you're looking at this line, and you can tell over time just by looking at this line graph that there's a lot less farms now than there used to be in 1950. So less people are farming. There are less farms out there. All right, so if I ask a question, how many farms did the U.S. have in 1970? What you do is you look at the bottom of the graph where the years are, and you look at 1970, and you follow it up, and you look at where the line meets, for the line graph meets right here, and look at this horizontal line, and it looks to be about 3 million. All right, so did the amount of U.S. farms decrease more between 1955 and 1960? Or 1990 to 1995. So now we're comparing. So we're looking at 1955 to 1960, and we're looking at it going from just under 5, so maybe like, I don't know, 4.75, something like that, going down for 1960 to about 4. And then we look at 1990 to 1995, it went from just over 2 to about 2. So which one decreased more? And the correct answer is right here. You can just tell by even looking at it that the line, it's a lot more of a sharp drop here than it is over here, 90 to 95. It's almost flattened out at that point. Approximately how many farms has the U.S. lost between 1950 and 1995? So looking from here at about 5.5 million to 1995 at about 2 million. So you look here and you look here, and then you do a little math. We're estimating maybe 5.6 million minus 2 million. So we're going to say we've lost about 3.6 million farms since 1950 to 1995. That's a lot. All right. So again, on this line graph, this one's about sub-Saharan Africa wheat production. Okay, and then you've got your key here where the colors represent certain things. In which region of Africa did food production increase the most in the last 40 years? So we're looking at the different regions. And so you got to look at the colors here. So Southern Africa is represented by blue. Okay, and we're looking at which one increased the most in the last 40 years. Now, we're looking from last 40 years from 2001 to 1961. So apparently this question was originally written in 2001. So really just look at the graph, which ones increase the most. So you're looking for the line with the sharpest upturn, So is it Southern Africa? Is it East Africa, which is represented by brown? So you're just looking at the starting number in 1961 and the ending number in 2001. And then you've got West Africa, which is represented by the green, kind of goes up, down, up. And then you've got Central Africa, which is the red. The correct answer is East Africa, and you should be able to tell that just because the number here compared all the way to where they end up by 2001 is a much larger number. So, how much wheat was produced in West Africa in 1981? So, we're looking at 1981. We're looking at West Africa. So, we're looking at the green, and it's at the number 2. So, that's in tons of wheat and millions. So, the correct answer, let's see here. West Africa is the green. So it really, I have this wrong here. It should be 2 million pounds, not 4 million. Okay. Because the answer was asking 1981, not 2001. So this one I have incorrect, actually. I need to fix it. And so what I'll do is I will take this shape and put it up here and make that the correct answer. So there you go. Fixed. Okay, next one. Employed people, another line graph, percentage of workers. You got your years down here and then your colors representing each country. Which country experienced the largest growth in the amount of unemployed people between the years of 1980 and 1982? So again, largest growth in the amount of unemployed people between 80 and 82. So 80 to 82 is what we're looking at. Largest growth in the amount of unemployed people. So we're looking at the sharpest turn here. And in this case, it's United States goes from about 7 million unemployed, or 7% unemployed, not million. It's in percentage. So 7% up to almost 10%. So the correct answer is the United States. That's the biggest, sharpest upturn. All right. What is true about the percentage of unemployment in Japan and in the US according to the graph? So look at the answer choices. There are more people working in Japan than in the US. Does it say the amount of people or does it say percentage? Okay, you got to look at what the graph actually says. It doesn't say the amount of people, it says percentage. So that's not the answer. B, there are more people working in the US than in Japan. Does it say that? Or does it, again, just give percentages? So it cannot be A or B because it doesn't say the amount of people total. So then answer choice C, Japan has had a much higher percentage of unemployment than the US. So we're looking at Japan, the red one. Looks to me like they have had a lower percentage of unemployment than the US because the US is way up here and that's a higher number, higher percentage number. So D, the US has had a much higher percentage of unemployment than Japan. That's actually the correct answer. And you can tell just by looking that the US was at 7% unemployment in 1980, for instance. And Japan was only at 2%. And even when ours goes down a little bit, 1986, we're still at 7 million. We go from 7 million up to almost 10 million. We go down to 7 million, but Japan's all the way down here in the twos. So clearly it is the US had a higher percentage. All right, selected oil and diamond exports, sub-Saharan Africa, 2005 to 2006. So we're looking at this chart. Which country in the chart is exporting the most oil? So what you're doing is you are looking at who has, because it's selected oil and diamond exports. So who's doing the most oil? So we're looking just at the top part, not at diamonds at all. And we're looking for, the largest amount of oil. And we're looking at world rank here. So if you look at Nigeria, that puts us at 91.9%. And I think that's another one that I have wrong, actually, because it should be exporting the most oil should be Chad at 37 the highest rank should be Nigeria. It's ranked number 6. So if we rank 1 is ranking the most exported, then number 6 comes before all of these other numbers. So actually I did have that one right. So Nigeria is ranked number 6 in the world at oil exports. So it is the most on this particular chart. Which country in the chart is exporting the least amount of diamonds? So by going the same way down here, Central African Republic is number 32 ranking over the world. So they are exporting the least compared to these other countries. Which country do diamonds make up the highest percentage of the country's total exports? So we're looking at diamonds. The highest percentage of the country's total is Botswana at 83.5%. Based on the chart, what is likely to happen if Angola runs out of oil and supply? So they're ranked 12 in the world at oil exports, and notice that that is 96.6% of their total exports. So if they run out of oil, they're not hardly going to have any exports. So it can't be A because they don't have plenty of other exports. It could be B, they might go bankrupt. C, Angola's economy will suffer because it is very dependent on oil sales, so it could be C. And D, it's a trick question. Angola doesn't have any oil. So we don't know for sure because Chad will go bankrupt is talking about a whole other country. So it really isn't Chad that we were talking about. So it's not B. It is C, Angola, because that's the country that the question was asking about. And their economy will definitely suffer. We don't know for sure that they'll go bankrupt, but it will suffer. Okay, literacy rates in Southwest Asia. Which country has the highest total literacy rate? So we're not looking at male and female, we're just looking at totals. The highest number here, Qatar, 82.5% literacy. That means 82.5% of their people in that country can read and write. What that tells you is Iraq, they don't have even half their people that can read and write. And if you look at it specifically broken down between male and female, it's really low for the females. So look at this question. Which country has the smallest difference in the literacy rate among men and women and the literacy rate among women? So the smallest difference in the rate between men and women. So we're looking at a country with their numbers are really, really close here. So Qatar has 81.4% of men that can read and write and 85% of women. So it's Qatar again. According to the chart, which country probably values education the least? So again, by looking at their literacy rate, the lowest number of literate people or lowest percentage of literate people, 40.4% is Iraq. So we can make the inference that they don't really value education as much as some of these other countries. So that is the correct answer. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening. I hope you guys learned a little bit more about reading charts and graphs because it really is an important skill that you are going to need, not just in my subject, but really in all subjects and even throughout life.